Hello and happy annual horror book shopping in Oxford Day to you. If you have seen this video on my channel before, you will know that this is an annual pilgrimage I make to Oxford to browse and buy a bunch of horror books. I love horror, I love the genre, I love browsing horror books, I love that in October all of the bookshops have their horror books just out there so easily on display, and Oxford is a great city to browse in because it not only has an amazing array of bookshops, but it's also got that kind of gothic-y vibe. It's a gloomy, rainy day out today. Whilst I don't want to get wet necessarily, it's setting the tone, it's setting the ambiance. So today, the plan: go to Oxford, use all my Waterstones points that I've been saving throughout the whole year to film this video, buy a bunch of horror books, come home and show you what I got. Sound good? I seriously love filming this video every year. It's so much fun. It's such a splurge for me to be able to go and do this. It feels like real me time that I always have this to look forward to and set aside this time. I'm also going to an ML Rio event this evening, the Hot Wax tour in Oxford as well, so that's going to be really good fun. And basically I've just got the day to buy books, which is a great way to spend a day. I do have, hang on, let me get the list on my phone. I have some books that I kind of want to keep an eye out for, but also at the same time, I just want to see what's available and what booksellers are recommending. So Tea Kingfisher, just generally Tea Kingfisher. I read The Hollow Places very recently, finished it this week and absolutely loved it, so now I want to read more Tea Kingfisher. I have the Twisted Ones, is that what it's called? Yeah, I have the Twisted Ones, so I already have that one. 13 Months Haunted by Jimmy Giuliano, The Devouring Light by Kat Ellis, Heads Will Roll by John Winning, and How to Survive a Horror Story by Mallory Arnold. So those are kind of ones that have come onto my radar that I'd like to have a look for, but just generally I am open for any recommendations and just seeing what is out on display in these bookshops. Usually when I do this video, my two primary bookshops are the Waterstones and the Blackwell's that specialises in sci-fi, fantasy and horror. However, the Waterstones is, I think, currently still in the middle of a move to a new location, so I'm going to have to rejig that a little bit. That is usually a massive provider of recommendations and horror books for me, so mostly this is going to be coming from the Blackwells, the sci-fi, fantasy and horror Blackwells, but there are also two other Blackwells in Oxford, as if one Blackwells wasn't enough. How many times can I say the word Blackwells in this video? But also I'm going to have a little browse of charity shops and things as well, so we're going to see what happens, see what I come out with. Of course I shall be bringing you along with me. Let's go horror book shopping in Oxford. So I got a few horror books yesterday. Shall we go through what they are? It's safe to say that the Blackwell's horror section did me very, very well, because I think all bar one of these came from that Blackwell's and the other one came from the other Blackwell's. So basically, thank you Blackwell's. Before we haul the horror books, I want to show you the tour edition that I picked up yesterday from the Hot Wax event. I was not going to buy this, and then I saw the stenciled edges. They're so cool. This book is so many things that I love. Love of music, photography. I love the writing style so much. ML Rio is one of my favourite all-time authors, so of course I had to pick this up. Also, a moment for it under the dust jacket. I love it. This was such a good event. There was a really interesting conversation going on about analog versus digital media and the idea of owning something you love. And I found that really interesting. I've been growing a record collection for like the last 3 or 4 years at this point. And my partner and I have kind of amalgamated that together to create one big record collection. And we absolutely love doing that and searching for new records and going to record fairs and things. The idea of owning the music that we love is really important to us, but also the act of putting a record on and just sitting and listening to it and just enjoying that is also, I think, really important to consume music in that way. And I think the same with like sitting and reading a book and just enjoying that time, or going out and taking photographs and being really present in that form of art. And it was really interesting hearing ML Rio talk about this as well, especially with the focus on music and owning the music and what streaming services has done to the music industry and how it changes things. And that was a whole really, really interesting discussion that I could talk about for a hell of a lot longer. I find it so fascinating. I got an iPod this year to try and take myself away from my phone more, but also to try and take myself away from the algorithms and just pick what I want to listen to, and again, own the music, albeit still in a digital form. It's still there on my iPod and it's saved on my computer, and you know, it's there for me to have and consume at any point. And I really like that as well. So anyway, there was some really interesting conversations happening at the event about this from ML Rio. Also, I don't think I've actually shared this on camera, but I took this edition, If We Were Villains, to get signed. This is a custom made edition that my friend and her husband made for me for my 30th birthday this year. How cool is this? So of course I had to get this one signed, and ML Rio said that they really liked this edition. Look! I was so excited to be able to bring this along with me and just to have it in general. It's so pretty and it's such a lovely, lovely gift idea. Okay, on to the horror books. The first one is one that I actually did want to look out for yesterday, but I forgot to mention it because it was one I took a photo of the other day in a bookshop and then saw it again and remembered it was one that was on my list. So this is The Macabre by Kosoko Jackson. The cover of this is pretty unsettling. The concept absolutely fascinated me. It's about somebody that can go into their own art paintings and is a horror. So I'm going to read you the blurb because it just sounds really cool. Struggling painter Lewis Dixon can't shake the feeling there's something powerful and slightly disturbing about his work, especially when the British Museum brings to show a surprising interest in his most horrifying piece, a recreation of his ancestors' infamous paintings. He accepts their invitation only to be met with a test to see if he possesses the magic necessary to enter the paintings and the strength to escape them, because his ancestors' pieces carried unnatural abilities and a terrible curse, and Lewis must destroy them all. Under orders from the museum and partner with handsome Agent Noah, Lewis plunges into a world of black markets, gothic magic, and unspeakable terror. But if he's to succeed, he'll have to locate the long-lost final work, and its powers might be the most devastating of all. I love the fact this is a horror fantasy mashup, and I love the fact that he can go into the paintings. I think that's so cool, and that just opens it up so much. And you know, if it's this painting on the cover that he's going into, then he's going to have a pretty horrendous time, I'm sure. Another one I forgot was on my list because I added it on so long ago. This is Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. I love horror books that acknowledge horror as a genre and have that like meta element to it, and this one has that. Summer 1993, a group of young guerrilla filmmakers spent 4 weeks making Horror Movie, a notorious, disturbing art house horror film. The weird part, only 3 of the film scenes were ever released to the public. Steeped in mystery and tragedy, the film was taken on a mythic renown. Decades later, a big budget reboot is in the works, and Hollywood turns the only surviving cast member, the man who played the Thin Kid, the masked teen, at the centre of it all. He remembers all too well the secrets buried within the original screenplay, the bizarre events of the filming and the crossed lines on set. Caught in a nightmare of masks and appearances, facile Hollywood personalities and fan conversations, the Thin Kid spins a tale of past and present, scripts and reality, and what the camera lets us see, but at what cost do we revisit our demons? After all these years, the monster the world never saw will finally be heard. Yes. This sounds so good. I got myself a Tea Kingfisher, What Moves the Dead. This is the one that I wanted to get ideally because I knew that this is the first in, I think, in a series. I think there's 2 others in this, maybe. A gripping and atmospheric retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's classic The Fall of the House of Usher. When Alex Easton, a retired soldier, receives word that their childhood friend Madeline Usher is dying, they race to the ancestral home of the Ushers in the remote countryside of Ruritania. What they find there is a nightmare of fungal growths and possessed wildlife surrounding a dark, pulsing lake. I love that atmosphere, that sounds so good. Madeline sleepwalks and speaks in strange voices at night, and her brother Roderick is consumed with a mysterious malady of the nerves. Aided by a redoubtable British mycologist and a baffled American doctor, Alex must unravel the secret of the House of Usher before it consumes them all. I love Tea Kingfisher's writing from the Hollow Places, so I immediately want to consume more by them. So this seems a great place to dive into. I'm also very much enjoying Christina Henry's writing at the moment, so I picked up Horseman. This is one I've seen about and just never gone for, but actually I think all the reviews on this swayed me in. Paul Tremblay, who writes the book that I was just speaking about, this one, horror movie, has reviewed this saying a true page turner. Rachel Harrison has said hair-raising, heart-stopping suspense from start to finish, a perfect nightmare of a novel. One of the reviews says it's a one-sitting read, so I figured this one sounds pretty good. And it's also, I think it's a Sleepy Hollow retelling, or like at least inspired by. Everyone in Sleepy Hollow knows about the Horseman, but no one really believes in him. Not even Ben Van Brunt's grandfather, Brom Bones, who was there when it was said that the Horseman chased the upstart Crane out of town. Brom says that's just legend, the village gossips talking. More than 30 years after those storied events, and the village is a quiet place. 14-year-old Ben loves to play Sleepy Hollow boys, reenacting the events Brom once lived through. But then Ben and a friend stumble across the headless body of a child in the woods near the village, and the discovery makes Ben question everything that the adults in Sleepy Hollow have ever said. Could the Horseman be real after all, or does something even more sinister stalk the woods? If Christina Henry's writing is anything to go off in Good Girls Die First, which is what I'm currently reading, I think this is going to be very, very good. It's a story that I'm not really very familiar with, the Sleepy Hollow one. I don't remember if I've seen the film, which probably means I haven't. I feel like I've seen bits of it, so I can't quite remember if I've seen the full thing. But I would like to watch the Sleepy Hollow film, but also, yeah, this just as a kind of adaptation of that story or a continuation of that story sounds very interesting. We know I love a bit of a meta horror story, so of course How to Survive a Horror Story is probably going to be quite meta. This is by Mallory Arnold. This is one of the ones that I wanted to find. Nearly didn't because it had been shelved in fantasy, but I did manage to find a copy, which I'm very excited about. 7 authors enter the manor. Can they survive the story within? When legendary horror author Mortimer Queen passes, a group of writers find themselves invited to his last will and testament reading, expecting a piece of his massive fortune. Each has their own unique connections to the literary icon, some known, some soon to be discovered, and they've been waiting for their chance to step into the author's shoes for some time. Instead, they arrive at his grand manor and are invited to play a game. The rules are simple: solve the riddle and progress to the next room. If they don't, the manor will take one of them for itself. You see, the Queen estate was built on the bones of Mortimer's family, and like any true horror story, the house is still very, very hungry. That sounds really good. I think at the moment this is what I'm most excited about. This one was a complete curveball. I saw this on the table and was like, no. And then I saw the reviews and was like, Christina Henry has reviewed this saying a wholly original slasher. This is The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi. This sounds brilliant. Rose Du Bois is not your average final girl. I love a final girl trope so much. Rose is in her late 70s, living out her golden years at the Autumn Springs retirement home. When one of her friends dies alone in her apartment, Rose isn't too concerned. Accidents happen, especially at their age. Then another resident drops dead, and another. With bodies stacking up, Rose can't help but wonder, are these accidents, old age, or something more sinister? Together with her best friend Miller, Rose begins to investigate. The further she digs, the more convinced she becomes. There's a killer on the loose of Autumn Springs, and if she isn't careful, Rose may be their next victim. Stephen King has said this is old school horror, which just, again, makes me want to dive into it. I think this sounds really, really good and just a little bit different, one I hadn't heard of, but one that I'm very excited about. I did not know that this existed. I read Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson a couple of months ago now, and it was totally unsettling and strange, but also the writing and the atmosphere was so good. So when I saw Guillotine, I had to pick it up. This says on the front, Tea Kingfisher's reviewed it saying it's glass onion meets Saw. I don't love gory horror. I prefer suspense kind of horror. I don't mind if there's gore. Actually, I'm saying I love slasher horror but don't love gory horror. I like slasher horror. I like the over-the-top element of that. I don't like Saw type horrors. So when I was picking this up, I was like, do I want to go down the route of something that is literally saying it's like Saw? But Delilah S. Dawson's other book, Bloom, was kind of a little bit more down that route. So I'm intrigued because it's not, I don't dislike it for any reason specifically. I don't mind blood and gore, so it isn't a squeamish thing at all. I just don't lean towards it as much. So maybe it's more of like, it's just not my preference of horror, but this sounded very interesting. So I thought I'd better pick a copy up. Thrift fashionista Des Lane doesn't want to date Patrick Ruskin. She just wants to meet his mother, the editor-in-chief of Nauio, I think that's pronounced, magazine. When he invites her to his family's big Easter reunion at their ancestral home, she's certain she can put up with his arrogance and fend off his advances long enough to ask Marie Caulfield Ruskin for an internship someone with her pedigree could never nab through the regular submission route. When they arrive at the enormous island mansion, Des is floored. She's never witnessed how the 1% live before in all their ridiculous, unnecessary luxury. But once all the family members are on the island and the ferry has departed, things take a dark turn. For decades, the Ruskins have made their servants sign contracts that are basically indentured servitude, and with nothing to lose, the servants have decided their only route to freedom is to get rid of the Ruskins for good. One of the things as well that convinced me with this is Katrina Monroe's review said I would follow Des Lane straight into hell, which makes me very intrigued to see how this character is written. So I also got this one purely because of my enjoyment of Bloom. This one's going to be a little bit different for me, and I'm excited. Two more. One of them is The Devouring Light by Kat Ellis. This was one that was on my list. This is a YA haunted house type of vibe. When rivals Hayden Romero and Deacon Rex and their bands, including Hayden's ex Cairo, are stranded on their way to a rock festival, they think missing the gig is the worst thing that's going to happen to them this weekend. It's not. Marooned with a broken down bus in the treacherous swamplands, they spot an old house where they can hole up until help comes. The house has been waiting for them, and it knows help isn't coming. As secrets are revealed and bodies pile up, Hayden starts to lose her grip on reality. Can the house make good on its promise to make all her dreams come true? And can Hayden afford the deadly cost? I love that this has got the music element in it as well. I love books about music so much at the moment, so this doubling up with the haunted house, yes please. And the final book that I purchased is Heads Will Roll by Josh Winning. Again, another one that was on my list. I think I managed to get all of them bar one that was on the list. Love the cover of this one so much. This sounds very interesting. Cancelled after a drunken, ill-advised post, TV star Willow Mackenzie is sent to Camp Castaway, a retreat in the woods where you can hide from your mistakes. Spoiler 1, there's nowhere to hide. That first night, fellow campers gather around a fire telling ghost stories, and Willow hears the tale of Knock Knock Nancy, a beheaded local woman whose spirit still roams the woods. Spoiler 2, she takes her victims' heads. Willow doesn't believe in ghosts until the next day when a camper vanishes, and that evening Willow hears it knock, knock, knock. Spoiler 3, it's already too late. Again, that sounds great. So this is what I mean. I love the slashery kind of horrors. There's a line of different horrors that appeal to me, as I'm sure with anyone that likes this genre. So that is my humongous stack. How many books actually is that? If I include Hot Wax, which technically, was one I bought yesterday, it's just not horror, it's 10. It's 10. How am I going to fit these on my shelf? Okay. Thank you very much to the Blackwell's Sci-Fi, Fantasy and Horror in Oxford, because that is where most of these, I think literally it was just this one that was in the other Blackwells, it was in the YA section, so pretty much all of these came from the horror section in the Blackwells, which just has such a good selection, such a good range. I love seeing what was picked out on the table sections as well. That was where I got a couple of these ones from, especially the Retirement Massacre one, which just, I'm so excited about that, it looks so good. Anyway, I have had a great time doing this. I love doing this every single year, it's so fun. Also, wait, hang on, I have to show you something that I won at the ML Rio event. Hang on, so there was a raffle going to win these t-shirts and there were 20 up for grabs and I won one. It's got the Gill and the Kills on the front of it, which I love, the band from Hot Wax, and the tour dates on the back, which is so cool. And then I also got one of 2 signed posters that were ordered to people that were asking questions at the end, which I love. It's so cool. So this is definitely going up in my music corner. I had a great time. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this vlog. I love filming this so much every year, so I hope you enjoyed watching it. Let me know if you've got any horror recommendations for me as well, or what horror you have been purchasing this month. I I love it so much, if you couldn't tell. I've said it a million times. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.